Juan and I started off at a previous company, and I love him to bits. So Juan is one of the nicest human beings that you can ever imagine meeting. He's got a good soul, kind heart, etc. Too good for his own well-being, in my opinion, because he lacks a little bit of killer instinct in terms of not wanting to charge people for the job that we do. So me, you put me in front of someone, I'll never give anybody any discount whatsoever because I'm worth the money that I get paid. Okay, you can see it in my returns. You can see it in the service that we give. We are worth. In fact, we could probably charge more. So you take Juan, you put him in front of someone, and someone says it's too expensive. He'll capitulate on that and says, "Okay, fine, we'll do it for maybe a little bit less, etc." And I used to be like that. So he reminds me a little bit of younger me, actually. The only difference between me and him is I've kind of learned to stand my ground. One of the best things about John is whenever he has seen an opportunity to work with me, so he's worked with me now at 2-3 different places, he follows, he wants to be part of it, and if he employs some of that standing on ground and a little bit more killer instinct, he will be an incredible advisor going forward, and he's still young, so yeah, he's a good egg.
So I'm an offshore wealth manager. I focus primarily on taking assets and managing them outside of the borders of the jurisdiction that I work in, or the jurisdiction that the client works in and lives in. So specializing in structures abroad, investments in fixed assets, share portfolios, fund management, and so forth. Yeah, so I'm a small town boy from the Eastern Cape. Grew up in a sleepy little village just outside East London, but I've always had a fascination for economics, and been a student of it since I was 15, where I've studied it through all when we could choose our subjects in matric, all the way through to my degree and my postgraduate. So you could say that financial services was always an inevitability for me. I was always going to end up doing something in that line. And I came to Cape Town in 2014 in pursuit of my dreams and hopes that I could learn more about how money can make more money for itself. And I did this through being mentored by various wealth managers and financial advisors all through the years, until I came onto a point in my career where I decided to start doing so myself. And that is where I find myself today. So I met Lawrence in March of 2014, where he was new to the industry in offshore wealth management. I was new to the industry in offshore wealth management. First thing I noticed about Lawrence was his absolute grit in the industry and desire to learn and grow. He was very proud in the sense that he wanted to be the best, and I migrated to that because I wanted to be the best. And his ability to absorb knowledge, retain information, and then coupled with an incredible work ethic that left most of us with sweats on our brows by the end of each day was what was one of the best things about my career. In fact, he helped mold, and he took me under his wing as a young man, and he helped mold me and move me towards a direction that I wanted. Yeah, that was Lawrence. Lawrence was a leader from the start. He still is to this day. He showed me ways of thinking and considering and negotiating that I may never have learned otherwise. I owe my ability to speak on a phone with confidence to his mentorship and learning. As I mentioned, Lawrence and I have known each other since 2014. Now, when I first met Lawrence, Lawrence was a junior in the business. He had only just started his career. Lawrence was driving an old Audi that his father gave him so that he could look the part. All of us were worse for wear and trying to, look the part. I arrived in my matric farewell suit jacket, for instance, with work, and we were all trying to make our way. So we worked hard. We were there from 6 until 7, and we grafted, and we made sure that we were the hardest workers in the room, no matter what we did. By the end of 2015, I was the top junior in the company that we were working for. Lawrence had done so well that they actually gave him the Joburg office to manage. And so Lawrence moved from Cape Town to Johannesburg, where we parted ways at the end of 2015 after having an incredible season together. I hadn't seen Lawrence for a while, and as the story goes, I went on to get other mentorship from other companies and from other advisors. But Lawrence and I always kept in touch. And when I decided to start my own book, something that echoed in my mind was something that Lawrence taught me when we first started together. And that is that we take the opportunity to see everybody. When we start, we work to learn and not to earn. And so that we can one day drop that L. And I always remembered that, so I took that to heart. And after coming out of a meeting where there was benefit for me and for the client for adopting that exact principle, I decided to phone Lawrence up and to thank him for, the advice given to me many years back that still resonated with me to that day. He happened to be in Cape Town at the time, so when I picked up the phone, he says, "How did you know I was in Cape Town?" And I said, "I didn't." He says, "Well, let's get together for coffee." I said, "Wonderful, let's do that." I arrived there, got a table for us along. Lawrence, being Lawrence, was fashionably late as always, and I waited at my table until I got a phone call from him, thinking to myself, this is Lawrence either postponing or something more important might have come up. But in actual fact, when I answered the phone, his first question to me was, "Can you hear this?" And I thought to myself, "Hear what?" And he says, "Step outside." And then I just heard the roar of a V8 engine going off, or a V10 engine actually. All it was an Audi R8 with Lawrence sitting in it, revving the rev counter all the way into the red, and Lawrence stepping out of the car eventually in a beautiful new suit, the beautiful watch on his wrist. I looked at this scene, having remembered my mentor from 3 years ago, and thinking to myself, what has happened? You got to tell me what you've done. And he smiled and he says, "Let's sit down, I've got a story to tell you." Told me about his career ever since and what has happened and how he became and built himself to the position that he was in, and that he had started with a new company and that they were in actual fact looking to open a Cape Town leg of the operation. He would have liked me more than anything to start with them and to assist them in opening up this Cape Town office. And so 4 months later, when I had my offer letter on my desk, it was with no hesitation that I signed the acceptance and started with the beginning of April 2019, and the rest is history.